For a brief moment, Confederate soldiers broke through part of the Union line. Brigadier General Lewis Armistead, wearing his hat on the tip of his sword so his men could follow him through the smoke, crossed the stone wall with several hundred soldiers. He reached Union artillery positioned behind the ridge. For a few minutes, fierce hand-to-hand fighting erupted. Some historians refer to this moment as the high water mark of the Confederacy, the point at which Confederate military fortunes reached their greatest extent before beginning a long decline. But Armistead's breakthrough could not be sustained. Supporting units had suffered devastating casualties before reaching the wall. Union reinforcements poured into the gap. Armistead himself was mortally wounded. The remaining Confederate soldiers found themselves surrounded by overwhelming numbers. One by one, they were killed, wounded, or captured. Elsewhere along the attack, the story was much the same. Pettigrew's men suffered catastrophic losses. Trimble's division was shattered. Many regiments lost more than half their strength. Some companies ceased to exist as organized units. Officers who had survived years of campaigning fell within minutes. The assault collapsed. Those still able to walk began retreating across the same open fields they had crossed only moments before. Now there was no orderly advance. Instead, exhausted survivors hurried back toward Seminary Ridge under continued Union artillery fire. The fields were covered with wounded men calling for help. Broken equipment lay scattered everywhere. Battle flags that had proudly advanced only an hour earlier now rested beside fallen color-bearers. General Lee rode among the retreating soldiers. Eyewitnesses recalled him saying repeatedly, "It is all my fault." He urged the survivors to reform in case the Union Army counterattacked. Many expected General Meade to launch an immediate offensive. Instead, the Union commander remained cautious. His own army had also suffered enormous casualties during the three-day battle. No major pursuit followed that afternoon. The human cost of Pickett's charge was staggering. Of the approximately 12,500 Confederate soldiers who began the assault, more than half became casualties. Pickett's 3 brigade commanders were all killed or mortally wounded. Nearly every field officer in several brigades was dead, wounded, or captured. Some regiments lost so many officers that enlisted men suddenly found themselves in command. Union casualties were also significant, but considerably lower. The attack had failed. On July 4th, 1863, Lee began withdrawing toward Virginia. Heavy rain complicated the retreat. The Army of Northern Virginia escaped across the Potomac River, but it would never again invade the North on such a scale. Meanwhile, on that very same day, far to the west, Union forces captured Vicksburg, giving the United States control of the Mississippi River. Together, Gettysburg and Vicksburg marked a turning point in the Civil War. From that point forward, the Confederacy increasingly fought a defensive war. Why does Pickett's charge remain so famous? Partly because of its scale. Thousands of soldiers advanced shoulder to shoulder across open ground under intense fire. Partly because it represented the climax of the Battle of Gettysburg, and partly because it illustrates the changing nature of warfare. Improved rifles, concentrated artillery, and strong defensive positions made frontal assaults increasingly deadly. The courage displayed by individual soldiers could not overcome those realities. Today, visitors to Gettysburg can walk the same fields crossed during the assault. The stone wall at the angle still stands. The copse of trees remains a landmark. Monuments from both Union and Confederate states line the battlefield. They commemorate sacrifice rather than victory. Modern historians continue debating Lee's decision. Some argue that different tactics might have produced a better outcome. Others believe no attack against the Union position could have succeeded. What remains beyond debate is the bravery displayed by soldiers on both sides, even as they participated in one of the war's bloodiest and most costly moments. Pickett's charge lasted less than an hour, yet its consequences echoed for years. The assault failed to break the Union line. The Army of Northern Virginia lost thousands of experienced soldiers it could not easily replace. The Confederate invasion of the North came to an end. Gettysburg became a symbol of sacrifice, determination, and the immense human cost of civil war. More than 160 years later, Pickett's charge remains one of the most studied military assaults in history. Not because it succeeded, but because it demonstrated how courage alone could not overcome the devastating power of modern weapons and determined defenders. It was a moment that changed the course of the Civil War and ultimately the future of the United States.